Hello, Internet. My name is Alexander Rainey. Alex for short. I am just embarking on my podcast adventures. Got a podcast already in the works with my friend Mac Hastings called The Positive Story Podcast. You can find that one on SoundCloud. But I figured, you know what, I got a lot to say a lot of the time. So I figure, it's time to start my own separate side pod project. So that's what this is. This was kind of an impromptu recording with my buddy Jesse Johnson. We sat down at my place early this morning. I'm talking about 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., and we just kind of talked it out. We talked about podcasting, life, whatever the fuck. And, sorry, I swore. I don't know. It's just my personality, man. What do you want? I'm not the most clean person. I wish maybe I was a little clean sometimes, but I'm just not very much so that way. So, here we are. This is a nice little tight 2 hours I recorded with Jesse. We talked about a lot of things. At one point I periscoped, saying a lot of P-words right now. I hope you can pick that up on your microphone, your little ears there. My microphone is delivering the sound to you. I don't know. Hopefully this will be a good thing for you as for me. I don't know what to say right now. This is an intro piece. I'm recording an intro to a podcast that has already happened. I feel a little weird about it. Already 2 minutes into this intro, feeling okay, I guess. So, just gonna keep it up. This episode could be brought to you by a multitude of brands that I do enjoy. I enjoy, let's see, Gatorade, General Mills, fast food. I like that. This podcast could be brought to you by any of those. That'd be great if they could sponsor a little bit. I don't know how that works. If you are listening and want to let me know how to get podcast sponsors / more listeners, maybe expanding a listener base, kind of just building a podcast from the ground up. If you got tips for me, I don't feel like Googling it, so holla at ya boy at Rainey Alex, RANEYALEX. So, with that, here is my talk with Jesse Johnson. Another quick thing I want to mention here, the beginning of this podcast involves a lot of snacking, unfortunately for you. I made some popcorn. It was good. It's very obnoxious. I tried listening back, and it's almost unbearable. So, just kind of wade through that if you could. You can actually, if you want, you could skip 8 or 9 minutes into the podcast. You're not missing a whole lot. But if you want to listen to the beginning, that's great too. It's mostly me just gnashing away viciously at these fucking kernels. So be warned, there is a little snacking in there, and a little belching. I'm a gross person, so here we go, my talk with Jesse. Talking to the mic more. You sound pretty good. Yeah. We can definitely hear the popcorn rustling.
I would imagine, yeah.
We got popcorn. We got beverages. We got salty snacks. Choo-choo.
Are we live?
We're live right now.
Great. This is great.
Yeah.
You made incredible popcorn for me. And for you.
I've just learned how to make this shit. I just Googled it and I was like, okay, seems like there's a very obvious choice. You put the stove at medium-high. Chew your popcorn. Throw some oil in a big pot. Throw some kernels in there. Like 3 to 6 kernels. When those start to pop, You throw the rest of the kernels in there, and then you just got popcorn.
See,
it's amazing.
Those kernels are like the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
It's ready for popcorn.
They're the
time.
ones that they investigate how hot it's going to be. And then they tell you when they're ready. And
So, yeah.
it might be a little distracting, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But it's so good that I
glad
sort of
we're-
feel sorry for anyone that's listening.
We'll cut back on popcorn.
Maybe.
We've already had a lot. We've eaten a lot of popcorn.
I did. I made a full pot.
And we've both just been grabbing it like hand over fist,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Just shoveling. I've been chewing the whole time I've been talking.
For anyone joining us, it's like 12:20.
Mm-hmm. It's 12:50.
12:50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so, it's already late. Maybe you're listening to this and it's late. Can't sleep.
Yeah.
Laying in bed. Thinking about your hands, just kind of, casually near your, crotch, and you're, examining yourself, and you're like, ugh, I'm bored. And then you're like, you know what? Fuck this. Well, listen to a podcast.
And here you are.
You don't have to, aimlessly scratch in the middle of the night. You can sit and just kind of maybe get, a little half smile on your face, and lean against the pillow. You're like, whoa, these guys are talking right to me.
We're hitting you where it hurts.
Sound
And you know
waves.
what? You know what the messed up part is? I think you're starting to like this chewing.
I think you like the
And
feeling.
rustling of our hands going into the popcorn. I think you like it.
Something primal. Hearing people masticate, which is the word for chew.
Oh, yeah. When I learned that, I'm like, wait. Because I had already learned the word masturbate. I knew what that one was. And then I learned masturbate.
Yeah, that one covered.
I was covered. I was like, okay, masturbating. You get yourself off, whatever, sexually.
Yeah, I would compare that to maybe the word thespians for actors. If you were at least 14, the word thespians was it brought back some memories, but you pretended like it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
One time for an assignment, I spelled it thespians
With a Z?
with a B.
Okay.
So it was a lot closer to lesbians. And my homosexual English professor corrected it. He was like, sorry, that was too close to lesbians. It's
Not okay.
thespians.
What was his name? Olinger?
I don't want to say Olinger on the air
It was Olinger.
because I have a problem with my G's.
Fuck that guy, he's got it coming.
So, and, 80%, 99% of our listeners know exactly what we're talking about. We're trying to bank on that.
Memorial High School, Eau Claire graduate, tuning in. Thank you.
Really just eating right now.
We're probably not going to stop until it's gone. It's pretty good popcorn.
Should we pause so we can finish this popcorn?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just keep eating it. I think they like it. I'm going to scoop my chair in, continue chewing this bite.
I've been kind of paying attention to listen. I try to consider myself like an observer of human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I think they like it. The way it sounds, just kind of the natural dynamic of.
I think they can almost taste it. How good. I'm just going to chew a single kernel. See how they like this. Oh my god. I can get the full effect because I got the monitors right now.
Yeah, you've got your ear to the ground.
Oh my god, it's unreal when I just go.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Put these in.
Hey.
Try this.
Okay.
Okay, so put those in.
Hello. Hey. Hi.
Watch this. Ready?
Yeah, I'm listening. Wow, that's really tender.
Right.
Nice, crunchy popcorn. Each kernel spilling on the table. Popcorn. This is really, really intimate.
Yeah. Popcorn.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's move on from the popcorn for a minute.
Yeah,
I think,
I'm gonna just set it aside.
I think people have kind of settled in.
They don't need the popcorn anymore. I'm just gonna finish this mouthful. Here we go. Okay. Wash it down.
Yeah. So, before we made popcorn, we both drove here.
Yeah. I dropped you off at your car.
Yeah, you did.
And I almost ran you over.
Yeah, that was
almost
funny.
real quick. Because I thought you were going behind for some reason. And I, like, lurched forward a little bit. And then I was like, whoa, he's on my hood. Almost just ran over Jesse.
Yeah, and I, like, saw you pull out your phone when I was getting out. And I kind of was like, oh, I've got at least 5 seconds.
Right. No, you got 0 seconds.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's going to check his phone. And then he's going to pull forward.
No, I'm going to do it simultaneously.
But I'm, like, I'm kind of, like, totally... I have it in me to, like... think about that when I don't cross in front of a car assuming that I'm not gonna get hit.
Right.
I don't do that because I in my head it's like I'm like literally every step I'm like, what's happening here? So when you pulled forward, I just like put my hand on your car and kind of was like ready to maybe roll over it if you kept driving.
Right.
You know, it was no big deal. Talking to the mic more.
Here we are. We're recording again. We had a bit of an issue, but now we both got.
Do we know
monitors.
where we cut off? Do you know what happened?
It was not long ago.
Okay, good.
We didn't lose too much. Not sure exactly what we lost.
Yeah, I was hoping. I was hoping you didn't feel too bad about almost hitting me because
yeah,
I like.
They definitely know that I almost hit you.
Okay, good.
And then also when I turned around, I did a Y turn.
Yeah.
I think you noticed maybe I like kind of went off the curb in a wonky way and made a big sound.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Okay, good. It was pretty big. I brought the popcorn back. I couldn't help it.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Yeah, no, that was cool. That was great.
Guess what?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Real farts, real podcasting, y'all. It's not your podcast unless you fart on it.
You're really staking a claim.
I'm really staking my claim with.
Hey,
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not sorry.
Yeah, you're not sorry.
No, I'm so happy.
You're soaking it up. In the absence of Mac being here, I thought I could talk about Mac for a minute.
Sure.
Because I spend most of my time with him.
You guys are roommates now?
Yeah, we're roommates now, so we see each other all the time. I don't know. It's just like I just wanted to say that like he like keeps me on the level a little bit in a way that like I think I come from like kind of a different school from Mac in terms of like personality, just like life and stuff, and so it's like nice to see like someone who's like really actually just like pretty different than me, and like I feel like most of our like my a lot of my friends have like the same issues I have, and like it's like kind of like we're like the same story. For some reason with Mac, I feel like it's a really different set of skills that he brings to the table, and a really different like a lot of different personality things. And I didn't like get him.
Sure,
when I first
could see that.
Met Mac, I was like, I thought that he was like in on my personality jokes. I was like, oh, if you're not like anyway, I think he's like but I guess this is all to say this is in the context of like mental health. It's like I think I have a lot of friends that are like similarly afflicted, and then Mac's just like this like totally like different kind of chemistry. Anyway, Mac's a good guy. He's helped me figure out my own chemistry a little bit in contrast.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, we're different, but we like more or less like similar things.
Yeah.
And like talk.
Mac I think he sort of approaches everything in his life pretty consistently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as far as just sort of how he perceives things, like everything is just sort of it's consistent. I don't know.
Or he's like able to maintain a perspective, whereas like what I think is one of my like better strengths is kind of this like open-mindedness that ultimately I end up like getting frustrated with my own open-mindedness, and I'm like it's like a fault. So then when someone is able to like think about the same thing for half an hour, I'm like like whoa, that's really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just popcorning over here.
Well, so and I bring that up because we were just at the bar with Mac.
I tried to convince him to come here to do a little podcasting, but
See, but that's exactly why he's not here. is he's able to like maintain a goal for longer than an hour,
Right.
and like already knew he was going home.
Mm-hmm.
Like didn't need like a late night burn.
He's like, you know what? I'm tired.
And
I'm hungry.
I actually like accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas I think you and I are both come from places, and I'm speaking for myself mostly, that like I look at every impulse of my own, and I go like, why don't we do the opposite of the impulse?
Sure.
Like haven't like why don't we just like maybe and it's this like really counterintuitive thing I do where I think because I was like I'm like, can I talk about like religion? Can I talk about like how I was raised?
Sure.
Because we're on a podcast, and I feel
Absolutely.
like that's what people do on podcasts.
Everything.
They kind of like dissect themselves.
Full force.
Yeah. I think the Christ myth is something that most people spend their entire lives not giving a shit or understanding. But I like got it when I was 4. And what that meant was that I was like suicidally masochistic at age 4, because the whole point of the story is that he dies.
Right.
And the whole point of my life at that point was I was like told to be like that. And I was like, oh, like do the counterintuitive thing to life, die in order to like save humanity. Mm-hmm. And so then as like an adult now, I just like do stupid shit all the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to save humanity, and I'm just like hurting myself.
Wow. You gotta stop putting yourself up on that cross, dude.
And that's exactly what it is, man. It's a classic Christ complex.
Wow.
And so I think it's funny though, because we're still in a society that worships that. Mm-hmm. We're still told all the time that like you should like give your life for everything you do or whatever. And I think there's this like pragmatic strain of living that is like, it's like really good that we don't live in a theocracy anymore, because America was a theocracy for a while.
Pardon me.
Just like insane religious people. Like looking out for themselves, and then telling everyone, okay, we're just gonna keep eating popcorn here.
We're really getting to the end of this.
We're down to like 5 ripe pieces, and then like a handful of kernels.
But sometimes you get kernels like this one here, that are sort of popped and definitely chewable. Mm-hmm. Almost even they're so like.
And it's kind of infinite. Like, you could kind of, like, the line for what is chewable and not is, like, slowly gonna fade.
Honestly, these are all chewable right now. This whole, like, group of, like, 70, like, seeds is, like... Oh, my God. It's
hey, so, because we both have monitors on, do you have a thing with hearing your own voice?
A little bit.
What, like, probably not a whole lot anymore, I would imagine. It seems like you've kind of resolved it.
I've definitely gotten to a point where I've like heard it enough, or like just gotten used to it, but
or maybe you're self-aware enough in the moment that...
Yeah, I've gotten to learn to hate it less, for sure. I used to hear it and just be like, oh my God, fuck my voice.
Yeah, well, and it used to be rare too to hear your... It's a little more common now.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard my voice when I was like 11. I was like, wait, do I like actually sound like I am a chipmunk?
Right.
Because I'm...
The thing with me...
Yeah.
When I used to live with my parents in like elementary school... landlines were still a thing, you know?
Yeah. And
so I'd often answer the phone, and I'd be like, hello, and they'd be like, hi, Kristen, because they were certain it was my mom. They were certain they were talking to my mom, and I'm like, no, this is Alex. I am not my mom.
And they're like, whoa, who, a child? Oh, boy.
And they're like, oh, wow, this is weird, huh?
Really got off on the wrong foot there.
I'm like, yeah, it happens about 12 times a day. But, yeah, it happened a lot. And then later, sort of started getting people thought I was my dad.
Yeah.
A little bit when my voice started.
I think I got that
but
once.
Not too often. It was like, it was like 3 or 4 times for my dad, but literally probably 900 times for my mom. People were so sure, because it was like probably 9 years where I was like,
little
in that
boys'
register.
Voices are like the funniest thing, and we should make fun of them more.
We should.
Like the way that, I mean, not really. You know, you can. I suppose
they're sensitive.
With the, yeah, it's like it's actually like they'll remember it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, they'll be fucked.
Oh man. Let's keep being self-conscious, you know?
Yeah.
Can we talk about how we felt about our bellies when we were 12?
Sure.
I thought I was obese.
Anytime I saw a girl like smile and look at another girl, I was like, oh my god, they're fucking talking about me. They're fucking talking about me. I am fucked.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad.
One time, okay, both of these girls, I hope they're listening, had like...
Kaylee, Miranda.
Kaylee and Miranda. Do you remember how the two of you made an inside joke when I wasn't there about how you both had a crush on me when I was 11, which is like gross, by the way, that you had a crush. I was like the worst. And then you told me that when you were like, you like told me that you both had a crush on me. And then I was like, what do I do with that? And then the next day I heard them, or no, it was like a few weeks later, and we'd all gone to a movie together.
Interesting.
But the one that I really liked was like definitely interested in my best friend. But she had told me that she had a crush on me. And then the other one, the leftover one, just kidding.
Oh my god.
She was actually like really cool, but I was like not into her. And then her and I were like supposed to double date. We're like 12, right? We're like 11.
Right.
And it's like we're like double dating. And we're like forming this little like bubble.
I was never a part of those double dates, but they existed. Like,
well, I like felt like I had to hold her hand.
Yeah.
But then she like...
I never had a middle school relationship.
Yeah.
But like... motherfuckers would talk about going on double dates.
Sure.
We're aged 11, 12.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm going with fucking Lisa, and I'm going with
yeah, the implication that someone gets them. And then there's always one couple that does do it, because they're like, we've already, like, resolved our issues. And then the other couple's like, we're just, like, normal 11-year-olds, and, like, maybe our libido isn't ruling our lives yet.
Right. They were, though. Oh, my God, I was jacking it, like, 7 times a day.
There was a kid in my class who got caught. He cut a hole in his hoodie sweater and jerked off during, like, 10 a.m. English class.
Oh my god.
He like was jerking off into his hoodie.
Oh my god.
Like he cut a hole in his hoodie and then took his dick out of his pants and put it into the big, you know how the hoodies have shared pockets where it was like both hands can meet.
Oh my god.
And this guy, I served him like like 6 months ago. I served him at the restaurant I was working at, and I like was looking at him and I was like, "Hey man, like you jerking it right now?" I was at Picanha, so I was giving him big cuts of meat. I was like, "Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, you about to fuck this meat? You gonna put
you
this
like that
meat in your
even more
sweatshirt,
than
bud?"
Language arts.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was matched up like hypothetically with a few people.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Hypothetical matchup because it's like, well, we're dating, so you guys should now.
Right.
That's the fucking word.
Well, my friend who was also named Alex was like, "Dude, you should go out with Jennifer. You'd be a great fit with Jennifer." And I was like, "Yes, we would," but it never happened, and I was like, "No way, I'm gonna make that happen."
Yeah, man.
But like,
these are such like
thought about it.
Like so, like it's so dumb to talk about it now, obviously, because like we like clearly.
I wish I could go back and
clearly nothing is at stake.
Yeah, I wish I could go back. This is so like cliche and fucked, whatever. But if I could go back to middle school for one day, I would rule that thing by like 5th period. I would be the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny. I like look back and I'm like, I was just being myself, and that's why it was so painful.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I was just being myself.
I was so bashful, and just like not involved. It was bad.
Yeah.
But I could go back. I'd be getting sucked off.
Well,
3rd hour in the bathroom. I swear to God, I could have that lined up by now.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
You're
by
so
now,
creepy 'cause
it's
it's
pretty easy. I mean, that's the thing is like,
By no means have I made that happen now.
you getting
But if I
sucked
could
off
go back
in
to
middle school.
if I could go back to 2006.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing, right? Is that the same things that like trouble you now or like are hard now were like the same kind of things that felt so serious when you were 11 and 12. Like your internal life was just as dramatic a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And it was about,
if not more, because I was more clueless.
Yeah, well, exactly. No one told you that anything was an option yet,
right.
So you were like always breaking new ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny too that like sometimes I get interested in the idea of like your like identity at any given point in time, more or less. What year it is kind of interchangeable, and like a person in the world is gonna often make very similar choices when they're really young as they do later, and then you start to get this idea that maybe like time doesn't really exist and you're just kind of this like timeless thing.
Yeah.
And you really feel that when it comes to things that you get upset at yourself for. So like the time you didn't hold someone's hand in middle school, and then you're 20 and you like are just like totally fucking up with the girl you like. You're like, oh, that's the same thing. And then you're like, oh man, I make all the same choices all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's some kind of beauty in that too. You can kind of see how things work out. Like now nothing's at stake when you look back at your childhood. Nothing's at stake and you're like, well, obviously it doesn't matter if I held her hand or not.
Yeah.
You know, I was 14.
Would have been nice, but like
It
whatever.
would have been nice, yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Dude, my friends were fucking when they were like 14. And
I've listened to, yeah, same here, but like I've listened to a few podcasts with people that I like, and I think that people who were raised maybe with less boundaries, probably in a more urban setting or something, you
mean like suburban maybe, or
maybe, but
okay, yeah, go on.
But just in this specific context, like
So,
people
like,
I've listened
in a
to,
city.
maybe more inner cities, what I'm trying to say. But fucking by age like 11,
Yeah.
like I think that kind of happens like pretty often.
Yeah. Well, and so like when you're 11, you're like, god damn, like
Right.
lucky.
Yeah, I like was good to go at 11. I didn't know what it was.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I
Yeah.
definitely didn't go like do
Well, but
it.
so now you look at those people and they're all like married by the time they're 20 because they've been dealing with like, I don't know. It's like they're like, well, like I don't know.
I've been fucking for a greater portion of my life than I was not fucking.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Not that has much to do with
Well,
whatever,
and
but
I,
like,
to be honest, I think that like that kind of like
oh my
really
God.
early childhood stuff when you're like not an adult, like sex is like an adult thing. It like barely makes sense in the context of being in college. Like
Yeah.
it's still like you're in a bubble when people are making these choices in college or whatever. Like it's much, like anyone who's gone through it will like look back and like the same way we like there's nothing at stake there. And so when you like get into it when you're that young, it's like I actually think that there's some serious like developmental issues that can happen.
Yeah, or you like, yes, it's just so many like possibilities. Like you start developing earlier, or maybe you're just like sort of fucked up because you're not quite ready, or maybe you're hitting the nail on the head and you're like totally ready and just like living out your destiny as just like a thoughtless fuck machine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But having all the people that you knew that were 11 and 12 or whatever, and weren't all those relationships like ultimately kind of like bad for them, and they like got really, and then like the next time they had they were dealing with the like losing their soulmate or whatever, because like everyone has their like first person you got fucked up over,
Right.
and they're doing that when they're like 13.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't even know anything yet, and you're already like sad about losing your soulmate,
Right.
and then you like go through like a messy thing, and you get really like then like not the next one, not the rebound one, but the second the one after that, you're like, oh, now I've done the whole thing. Like it was like they broke my heart. That person wasn't right, and now it's like I've got to lock it down. And then you see people in high school that are like, we're basically married. Our parents like each other.
Yeah, that's always weird when they're always
Yeah.
like, they're like 17 and already like lined up to like
It's like we've
lock
been
it
dating since
down.
freshman year.
Right, we've been
Yeah.
dating like 2.5 years, and like we've done full sex. Like we're probably gonna get married.
That's how people talk about it too. Yeah.
Our parents pretty much know that we fuck, so
Yeah.
like we're
Well,
getting married.
and so, like, what's, like, the-
there's several of those I know. Like, if you're listening, you know who you are. Like, I'm not ashamed to be talking about you. I'm not gonna list you, Zach.
American love games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way like parents talk to like teenagers, like budding, like people, like the way like some parents are like, oh yeah, my favorite group of kids, it's this group of teenagers, budding sexuality, like that girl is the hot girl in the group, and I hope my son marries her.
Right. When oh my god,
I hate that.
when parents tune into like dynamics of their high schoolers, are you kidding me? That's so fucked. Like, there are obvious dynamics sometimes, but it's just like so weird. It's so weird.
Well,
like,
the kind of thing that everyone represses. Like, we're talking about it now because
they never talk about it. Oh my god, they will not talk about it.
yeah.
But like people know, like
Well,
the kids
and you
know, the
should
parents
repress
know.
that. Like, that should be stuff that you can. You
That's
should.
stuff you naturally just don't
Yeah,
talk
you
about.
shouldn't hang out with your middle school friends anymore. You
Yeah.
shouldn't marry the girl you met in freshman year, probably.
The chances are.
Probably. And you shouldn't, like... yeah, you should move very far away from that. And so, like, the idea of, like, the adult in your life tuning in and being like, yup, you're nailing it, honey. Like, oh, like... Oh.
Like, no, like, just, like, don't even think about it, parents. Like...
Get out of there.
Just don't worry about it. Hopefully it passes. But
I think I'm really lucky because I had like, I don't want to like throw my parents under the bus and say they were bad parents, but they just like, they did a really good job of, like non-parenting me. Like they weren't sensitive to my struggles because I hid them, and they like didn't. I didn't have to get real with them. And I had a very fake, completely arbitrary relationship with my parents until I was 19 or 20. And then I actually started to, like, develop some more, like, adult empathy. And I think that was really good because, like, the shit that you do when you're younger than that is, like, kind of just the worst. You kind of need that bubble.
Yeah. It's good to just be like, okay, we're going to move on from this. We're going to, whatever, deal with it now.
Yeah.
It's weird shit, though. It's not going to be like this forever. I thought I was the only one that masturbated.
In the world.
When I was 12. And someone actually approached me. They were like, do you do it? I was like, no. I don't. And they were like, you don't do it? I was like, do what? They were like, masturbate. And I was like, no, I fucking don't.
I'm kidding you.
I was literally, because I thought I was the only one.
Yeah,
and then when that happened.
Then you knew what he meant.
And then I knew what he meant. And then, but I still kind of stuck with it for a while. I was like, I don't. And then I sort of was like made fun of it for not doing it after that, which was like exactly what I didn't want, but like didn't know like what to do.
You got this reputation as like a really chaste teenager.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he never touches it.
He never does anything. Like, no, you guys, I'm probably blowing you out of the water with how much I'm doing it. You guys have no clue. You guys don't know what a reach around is right now. I definitely do.
Yeah.
You guys don't know half the shit I've seen.
Well, and it's funny, too, because, like, you know that there's a whole industry built around sex. And yet you're in your head, it's still like, no one knows.
One time I struck out at baseball because I was distracted by some porn that I had watched earlier in my head. Not that I cared like one fuck about baseball, but like I was like I like remembered it and was like ugh, and I had to like walk back to the dugout. I was like scarred for sure.
Yeah,
it was like a really like kind of.
Well, that's the funny thing too is that like
just very adult.
I think like guys of our generation, pretty much the idea of like sexual development means that you permanently scar yourself for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Like you like and then I think that's the reason why like you're seeing a lot more like jaded high schoolers or whatever, like versus and I mean now compared to like maybe when porn wasn't on the internet, high schoolers were like socially curating their sexuality in the way that, you know, you like, it was the only way you could. It was like the hot girl in school or the, you know, the thing that your friends showed you or the movie that you watch with your friends that broaches a sexual topic. Right. Was like the thing. And then I think that's why you're seeing a really different strain of teenage people in high school is because it's actually just all out there. And it's really your choice to, like, kind of approach it at an immaturity level. And you're seeing this kind of, like, maybe it's good for people. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, and, okay, so we're, like, talking about porn. Trigger warning, if porn is weird, it is weird.
It is weird. Probably have seen too much.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing, is, like, if you, like, grew up on the internet as a guy, you, like... we're confronted with a lot of things that are like pretty like hateful and weird and like flat out like extreme and gross and just like really like like kind of scarring or whatever. But did you have this like weird ability to like know your level of readiness and then somehow find like...
I guess it was so weird for me because I would get so horny but didn't know what it was, and I knew it was something sexual, but I didn't know masturbating existed.
And
first
for
of all,
you, sex at that point was like what happens when they fade out in movies.
Sure.
And
I knew like I wanted to see a vagina, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Well,
but like I would
just
get so. The first one that I wanted to see was Robin Hood Men in Tights. Lady Marion has the chastity belt on, and they don't show it. But I was like, oh, fucking show it! God!
That is so funny.
I would get like rock hard. I swear to God, I'd get fucking
and
riled
that's like the
up.
classic tease. Like the whole point of that in the movie, if you guys haven't seen this movie, a very great satire of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
The whole point of her character was that like in the Robin Hood myth, in most fantasy myths, you have the the princess that you save and win and earn or whatever. And so like the funny part about that bit, like the bit of her wearing like a giant steel...
It's an Everlast fucking boxing brand. Fucking...
Yeah, it's like a big steel
with a big
piece
lock
of underwear.
on it. Yeah,
with like a
steel
lock
underwear.
right there, yeah.
Titanium fucking unattainable.
Great satire.
It
Super
drove
funny.
me insane.
And you were just
Mel
wild.
Brooks, if you're by some chance listening to this, huge fan.
Yeah.
Please hit me up on Twitter. I love you.
And he teased you better than anyone has ever teased you.
Yeah, it was... Oh my God. It was insane. He's like working on it with like the jackhammer trying to get it open, and I'm like, please work, show me what is under there.
Yeah, so okay, so right, it's like the first man. So the like early one for I got like weirdly like I like accidentally saw porn when I was like 9.
I accidentally saw some too.
And I didn't even mean to. I went to Zelda.com, which used to be a lesbian porn site. But I was looking for the video game. And then it was just like a bunch of like 90s lesbians. And I like scrolled to the bottom of the page, had no idea what I saw. Walked around in like in a fugue state. I was really confused. But when I was like when I was searching, when I was like doing it on purpose, I would like find like incredibly tame pornography. And it like it was like equivalent to how young I was like the tamer shit that I found. And I had the entire internet, but I would like for some reason like not like go out on the internet. I would like wait for something to like I would just like wait for like the accident.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe it's not funny to anyone else, but like the first video I watched on the internet was like so hilariously clunky. It was just like a person in high heels, like standing on a chair and like walking around a chair, and this like terrible funk song played. And there was no nudity at all. It was so softcore, no nudity. It was just like person with a chair looking awkward for 3 minutes, and I was like, where can I find more of this stuff?
Yeah. My first porn was accidental. I went to my mom's work with her. It was like a weekend. I went with her to do homework, whatever. She had work to do. And I went on to her coworker's computers to like just use the internet or whatever. And I don't think it was on their computer, but like a virus or something popped up. And it was hardcore porn. It was like the woman had a dick like exploding in her face. She had fucking jizz in her mouth. Didn't know what I was seeing. My mom noticed it, was like, "Oh my God," and like turned it off.
Whoa.
And I was like, "Whoa,
I bet her
that was
coworker
wonky."
was in the middle of watching porn.
Maybe it's like hard. Like maybe that wasn't going on. But yeah, that's gardening.
So like, what do we get from that? We like.
I was probably 10.
Yeah, right. So like way too young. You're
Mhm.
like physiologically, this makes no sense.
Right.
That
My mom
bo-
was like, "Oh my god, well there he goes. He is done."
There goes my boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, and that's like the other like weird part about being that age. We're like, can we just like we don't have to run away. We're talking about adolescence, adolescent sexuality. Like, you know, obviously this topic is like weird for a bunch of reasons.
It's bizarre.
That's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you want coffee right now? I'm gonna go grab some coffee.
Yeah. I'm gonna monologue while
Yeah,
you
do it,
if you can still hear me. The like family dynamic that comes as a result of like really natural sexual things, because like it's funny how like parents are like so terrified of adolescence, because I think most adults haven't actually resolved their sexuality all that adequately, especially not like the generation that raised like my parents, and then as a result, you know, our parents as well, like probably pretty unresolved. Like society didn't really expect you to resolve your identity. Society kind of just like expected you to like keep working and keep making families and maybe not think about it. So there's kind of like universal tension with your parents that happens with that, where like everyone should know what's going on, but for some reason it's like everyone's in the dark, or maybe intentionally in the dark. And this idea that you're like fucking up for your parents, you're like ruining it for your parents. It's somehow your parents' problem whether or not you jerk off.
Right.
It's like somehow becomes their problem, and like they don't want that to be their problem.
They know it is their problem, but they like really don't want it.
And
like
then
they
for
just,
some reason they really
and that
they
is,
pick, also like I think it's pretty common for people to pick that fight, to be like, no, we're gonna make sure you don't have a sexual identity yet.
Ugh.
It's like, maybe you're just uncomfortable with, like, I don't know,
right?
like, maybe you
like
should...
you're just raising a monkey with a sexuality, like it or not. They're gonna fucking pop.
Yeah, and then we
like,
and then we lie,
oh my
and
God.
then we lie. So the
Right.
next step is lying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Pardon me, real quick.
your parents are like,
Fuck.
the better you are at lying, the happier they are, because they don't know.
Yeah.
And then you curate a little psychopath that can lie about anything.
Yeah.
And then where are you? You know, like, when can you talk about sex? I decided with my parents that there never had to be a watershed moment where I could. I don't want to talk about sex with my parents,
Right.
but like, I'll like say whatever I want to now, and I'll be like, listen, like, if sex comes up, like, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't know what it is and that it's a fine, healthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because, yeah, whatever. This isn't about my parents. It's just about like talking to people. Like, there's like a million ways that people hide it still, and that people that were raised to repress it,
Mm-hmm.
like, are like still like scared of it or whatever. Yeah. It's bizarre. It's so like, you know what? Sex is so fun. You just like get to know someone really well, and that's like what happens.
So you dive deep into them.
Well, no, I mean, we can say that, right?
No, yeah,
Can we say
absolutely.
that on the air? Is
Absolutely.
Can you say dive deep into someone, or is
We
that
don't,
too?
the FCC doesn't give a fuck about us. We are golden.
Are you allowed to say dive deep into someone?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
My first porn that I watched, I had this pay-as-you-go T-Mobile phone, and I bought explicit sex pictures, like these wallpapers. I traded my minutes for these pictures.
Oh my god.
Because you could do that. But, so I bought the Virgin de Guadalupe, which is not sexual. It is a religious painting of a woman. And I saw the word virgin. And I was like, that's hot. I didn't know what it meant exactly. And I just downloaded this picture of, like, this saint woman. And then I had to go back and use more minutes. I went to, like, the Sports Illustrated, like, swimsuit people. And I bought some, like... Nothing naked. It was all softcore, but like I traded my minutes. I had no one to call.
Well, when you were a teenager, softcore was still like incredibly high fidelity photography. Meant it was like there was like a giant marketing machine behind it. Like what, right? Are we peaking? I think the way splitters work, like Just make sure we're not peaking.
I turned up the level a little bit. I'll turn it down here.
Okay, because
let's try 60%.
You know how splitters make one set of headphones way louder than the other?
Oh, sure.
So for me, I can't tell if you're peaking or if my headphones are just way louder.
Yeah, I think we're pretty normal at this point.
Okay, I just don't want to
peak. I'll try it because we're turned up pretty much on the thing. Here we go. Let's try this. That sound okay?
Yeah. It was
too loud.
It was in terms of my like earpiece. It's a little loud. I just want to make sure that like it's not peaking on the file.
Yeah. No, it's not peaking on the file.
Okay, then we're
It's
fine.
not like
Okay, good.
Out of control.
Cool.
But yeah, so
thanks everyone. This has been fun. This is a late night pod. And we're talking about late night sex.
And that's when I was fucking looking it up. I tell you what. On my fucking T-Mobile it was a T-Mobile to go.
You bought
phone.
A picture of the Virgin de Guadalupe.
Yep.
That's like really good, man. That's classic.
It was pretty good. It just seemed, I don't know. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one who thought I was getting into porn when I found that. You know, it was like and the other reason I thought it would be good. It was
what a hot word,
at like
Virgin.
Yeah, it was at like the top of like the most popular wallpapers. So it's like, okay, that's gotta be porn. It's the most popular, and fucking A, it was not porn, and I was crushed. And then I bought this fucking like porn like cell phone game. It was like this
game.
It was like this like poker game or something where you'd play. And then, like, maybe there was, like, a woman stripping or something. But, like, I don't know. It was pretty bad. I was so desperate to, like, see shit. And I was, like, I needed to masturbate. I didn't even know what it was. So I was, like, just corked.
I was raised with this, like, pathological... so, like... I was raised with censorship as, like, an active process that everybody engages in.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone makes sure on behalf of the team that nobody gets exposed to anything bad. Mm-hmm. And that included me as the youngest.
Right.
I was a little... You know how, like, young kids can be, like, little, like, cops or whatever?
Right.
So, like, I was, like, weirdly... I knew whenever I saw a depiction of a woman that was overtly sexual, I knew, like, oh, yeah, that's, like, off limits. That's, like, bad. That's no good. But the medium is really the message. And so, like, when I was looking at, like, so there's a video game, Duke Nukem. And Duke Nukem was, like, marketed towards 14-year-olds, rated, for 17-year-olds. And then everyone's younger brother, who was 8, also saw it.
Mm.
And this was, 98 or something. And so it was, like, very, like, this guy's, like, I'm just here to chew bubble gum and kick some ass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, horrible graphics, and there's, like bikini women and whatever, and, like, the whole vibe is, like, yeah, like, this is a game where you get to see some hot shit while you blow up some aliens or whatever. But I was already, like, no, that's, like, bad. That's, like, bad. You, like, constantly be like, oh, like, you can't, or, like, no, or whatever. But that's just part of my, that's my weird thing. I think I had a larger idea there. But okay, here's what the larger idea was, is like, as time goes on, people are getting a more and more literal picture when they're younger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the odds that people are, like, getting a clearer picture of, like, whether it's, like, something, like, forbidden, like, genitals, or, like, maybe conceptual, like, what is sex, and, like, why do people do it, the further you go back in history, the more and more you get this, like, hilarious cartoon. And kind of this authenticity, too. So, like, people that were, like, raised in, like, the 80s or whatever, like, they experienced sex when they read a fucking comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a character who was, like, really, like, just, like, cool. It's not that, like, it was, like, as things were more and more censored, sex became more and more subtle. And so, like, in, like, 40s movies or 50s movies or whatever, it's like, if you're an adult, you know exactly what's going on. But if you're a kid, it's like, whoa. There's just some, like, intense vibes between the female lead and the male lead. Like, whoa, like, those vibes, like, is that what adults do or whatever? And you read a comic book and it's, like, this, like, it's, like, there's, like, this other thing going on if you're an adult. But you're a kid and you're just, like, that, like, lady is, like, really like strong and like saying a lot of things to this guy, and like somehow she has like all this power over the guy,
right?
And then you like by the time you're hitting puberty, you've already been trained in all of the things society thinks about sex. You've already been shown, guys do this to win women.
Right.
Women do this to be the women that are worthy of being won or whatever. You're already trained in all that, but you have no biological connection because you're like you're a child and you're like, you don't know why. Right. But like it's like you're like already being told that like that's mostly what adults do and that's mostly what goes down in this kind of like veiled way. And it's like there's something classy about that I worry, and not to just like focus on like kids these days or whatever, but I worry that like the like entertainment has become like so like literal and unsubtle that maybe like you're not getting all the like kind of cool parts of like censorship art.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like
sure.
when you're being censored, you have to like characterize people more. It can't just be like, well, they want to fuck. Like it has to be more like there's another story that you're veiling it with or whatever. And that like I think maybe helps you like be charming because you're not just like, oh, I need it.
Right, you got more going on, which
yeah, you're a character
people,
and there's a bigger story, and maybe like this thing happens or whatever, but it's not just the point of the story.
Right, you're not just a fuck machine, you're just
Right.
you're a human with that there's that part of you.
And I think maybe the last time that was a valid fight in society was the 90s with the rom-com. And then the way that the rom-com went, like, basically destroyed any subtlety in anyone's sex lives. And everyone was like, well, let's be honest. Even when I'm, even as a self-actualized 60-year-old, I'm still basically one of the two stereotypes in a rom-com. And so are my children. And here we are. You're not, like, fucking, obviously this wasn't... like whatever, like never mind. I was gonna say Don Draper, but I don't even watch Mad Men. But like when it's like something else, when it's like you're like Batman or whatever, and it's like sure Batman's hot, but he's like making the world better. He's not just trying to fuck.
Yeah, he's got a tremendous sexuality, sure. Also,
we're not going to deny Batman his incredible sex appeal.
You got to keep that, but it's not just what he's got.
Have you seen the Jack Nicholson Joker Batman? That one where Jack
a little bit.
Okay, so like in like the new ones, he's supposed to be like a playboy, whatever. And like the Christopher Nolan ones, he could be like a lot like cooler. He's mostly like pretty weird about chicks, if we're talking about sex and Batman, which by the way, my first sexual dream was a Batman dream. Poison Ivy was poisoning me to death, and I was like, this is hot.
Wow. Pardon me.
But in the Jack Nicholson Batman, like Batman's interaction with the leading lady is fucking adorable. They like she's just like really independent and cool and career driven, and he's just like incredibly nice to her and treats her so well, and then like saves her life once, and they like it's like it's hilarious how like politically correct and romantic that Batman is.
Wow.
He's like the most gentlemanly dude. I don't know. Maybe Batman's always been classy, but it just struck me as really funny compared to like, whatever. Do you like Meg Ryan?
I think so.
Yes. Meg Ryan movies are pretty cool.
I'm at a point where I feel like most of the media I consumed that had to do with Meg Ryan was like referencing Meg Ryan.
Oh, for sure.
As opposed to just straight up Meg Ryan material.
Yeah.
Family Guy. You got some Apatow movies where they fucking mentioned Meg Ryan's bush.
Okay, right, sure, yeah, exactly, totally, and me too. And then girls that had better taste than me in terms of like 80s and 90s movies. when I say better taste, I mean like good taste in bad movies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, you can have good taste in bad movies.
Sure, totally.
Right. I think, yeah, that's like a real thing. And I think for some reason women are better at that. They're able to like find the redeeming qualities of things that like I would be cynical about.
Right.
Like,
well, I think sometimes women are they're just more like positive and real, or I don't know, they like don't write things off as quickly sometimes.
Yeah. I
or
totally
they just
feel that
like
way.
they just like actually understand things for what they are. So sometimes things actually aren't that shitty, and then they're just like, yeah, it wasn't that shitty.
Well, and maybe it's like,
And that's not. I mean, men can do that too. That's
maybe
not just
maybe what
specifically women.
it might be. Okay, I have an idea where we can weave exactly what you said into a picture of why men do the opposite thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is maybe like what you and I are identifying as male cynicism is actually like a level of like you feel complicit with why something was produced, because it's like almost all of the movies that were produced that we saw in the 80s and 90s were produced by men.
Mm-hmm.
And then like women are good sports and are like, oh, even though like men were in charge of this thing or whatever, we're like able to find the like good characters and the good things or whatever. Maybe as creative people, we're like, oh yeah, like the reason why this ultimately isn't that good is probably because like men were making the whole thing.
Right.
But like, okay, something about Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
That's just
Pining
so
for each other.
quintessentially fucking. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, no, you could.
That's so early 90s.
And there's like at least
fucking
3
late
movies.
80s.
There's at least 3 movies where those two are like the leads.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they didn't.
They probably were hooking up in real life. I would imagine that they would.
Well, and it's
Maybe
kind of
not,
insane that
whatever.
maybe, you know, it has to work.
Mm-hmm.
If like they ever had a fight, they could just watch Sleepless in Seattle.
And they're just like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
fucking god. Look at that us in that fucking
You can
movie.
raise my son. No, I don't know. But okay, so like for real though, sometimes you know, as a progressive male feminist, get a little jealous of just like the mechanics or like the like brain chemistry of women. I know it's not easy. I'm not trying to like idealize. That's a big problem, is like the like deifying women.
Mm-hmm.
I think creates a lot of weird like relationships. But like sometimes I'm just like, fuck, like the way women think is so generative and like natural and positive, and like the way guys think is always in the context of like control and like, oh, do I have control? Did I have control and fuck up?
Right.
Can you all pay attention to whether or not I'm doing well or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and then like you watch like a talented woman do something, and you're like, oh yeah, like you can just like be, you can just like be something.
Right. Sometimes women are just so much better at shit than men. Straight up. I've experienced that since I was a very young child, like cooperating with girls in a group, and they're just like so much more on top of things and able and ready, and like just as far as just things like organizationally, and like if you're talking about like a group of 8-year-olds fucking doing something creatively in an educational setting.
Yeah, like
just
the
some
8-year-old
project.
girls are like pretty much like full-fledged people.
Right. They like they're like reasoning and like doing things,
like
making,
socially sensitive.
Yeah,
like,
they're like taking notes for the group, organizing
unless
the
they're
group's
like
thoughts.
in a pretty bad funk, they're like mostly building people up. and
Right,
just,
they
like,
can be
you know,
very sassy and like not even sassy, but just bitches. Oh my god,
8-year-old
Alex.
girls.
But like,
yeah,
yeah.
Man, let's fucking get into that.
Let's get into
zone.
that. They
Like,
can be
8-year-old
shitty
girl.
little bitches. But they're more on top of things than I was in like.
Well, and
including
isn't it funny that we
myself
make it a
now.
stereotype? Like when you're in school, you're like, oh yeah, of course a girl did good on that assignment. Girls are always good at school.
But there's something to be said
And
for
it's
just like
they're
their
functional.
level of
They're
functioning.
functioning.
They're just like these humans that are better than you. Like they are not just like, not just, of course, they're girls, but, like, wow, I can't do that. Like, you are performing at a level that I can't
That's such an interesting thing in
attain.
relationships, as an adult, where, like, it's so ironic, the picture that we're given of society, where it's like, oh yeah, like, and I mean, like, the sexist picture of society we're given, where it's like, oh yeah, like, the man's in charge and the woman, like, supplements the man or whatever.
Right.
It's so fucking backwards, because in almost any relationship, what you actually see is, like, a man, like, begging for validation.
Oh, yeah.
From the more qualified person.
Yeah, the woman is just like, oh, yeah, Herb's just a shithole. He's just...
And you're like, I don't even mean, like, a dysfunctional relationship.
No,
I mean,
but, like,
I mean,
honestly, like...
It's like, no matter what the situation is, it's like, if you see a happy man, it's probably because he's with someone whose standards he meets.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see an unhappy man, he's murdering himself because he's trying to meet the standards.
Or if you see a happy man, you realize, oh my god, that guy scored. That guy is lucky as fuck and backed up by an incredible woman who he probably doesn't deserve.
Yeah.
But damn,
and then,
there's
like,
so many cases of that, though. There's just so many, especially in the Midwest, like, there's just so many, I just feel like there's so many dudes that are just, like, underqualified. And then they're just with this, like, woman who's, like, way better than them. Maybe not very good looking, but, like, way better than them. And he's just lucked out.
Yeah.
He just gets, like, this mom that he gets to fuck.
Well, yeah, man.
I don't even know. It's nuts.
All of a sudden very conscious of the fact that we're just, like, two dudes. But,
Whatever.
Well, no, that's bad. I was just, like, I would really like to hear, like, what another girl our age would project is going on with married couples.
Yeah.
And moms. It's like, whatever, man. That's a whole field.
It's a whole field of ifs and maybes and absolutelys.
But let's keep going. Let's keep going down this path. We've hit a lot of very primal things.
Yeah, which is kind of good. I mean, we've actually been almost recording for a whole hour here. And I think we've reached a point that is kind of, yeah, let's do it. Do you want to, here, I'll grab them here.
Pause quick?
No, let's just keep going.
Okay.
Give him the whole lick of everything.
So, can I ask you what's been on your mind?
What has been on my mind?
Acknowledging on air that I've already been, like, seeing you lately and, like, talking to you lately.
Right.
Whatever, but, like,
Well, and that's part of the reason that I would select you more, I guess, to, like, do a podcast with me, because you know me, we get along well, we're friends, like, I have more conversations with you than most people on average, you know? So you're an obvious choice to get into a podcast with. But what's been on my mind...
Yeah.
I don't know. My whole life has been on my mind because I am young as fuck. I really want to be a comedian. I am a comedian. I feel safe to say I am a comedian. I don't like to say aspiring because I just feel like the only thing I am is a comedian.
Well, when you look back on what's happening right now, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, oh, I know what I was trying to do, or I know what I was doing, or whatever. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be like, oh, I was intending to be like a horse.
Right.
You're like,
but the only thing I feel...
Okay, oh, and you're funny, man, and you're funny.
Well, thank you.
And you should be a comedian.
But the thing, I don't know, okay. I feel like I need to say I am an entertainer. Like, that's all since I was born an entertainer. That's what I have to be. As far as schooling, like, I can't do normal schooling. It just doesn't work for me. I have no interest in normal jobs. I have interest in entertaining. And that's so... I don't want to say I'm an aspiring comedian. I want to say I am a comedian. I'm not making money at it right now, but that is what I, at some point, have to be making money at. Otherwise,
yeah,
That's my option.
So, okay.
And I wasn't even planning on just saying that just now.
No. But that's really interesting, and I was kind of like hoping we'd talk about this anyway.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because it's really real. It's really, really real. This is like, your life.
Yeah.
You intend to do comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You do comedy. You just entertained me for like 45 minutes tonight while I was recording you.
Yeah.
Entertaining other people.
You filmed my improv team. I appreciate it.
Yeah. By the way, the filming looked really good, and
I would imagine you were getting some good shots. You were filming from the back of the room and from the side, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you would get good shots from where you were, just for filming from the side. Just for how that room was set up, I feel like that would be good. So.
Yeah, I think it looked good. But also, like, as someone who's, like, done improv, I have this thing where I, like, I either need to be, like, participating actively or, like, I don't know, it's strange. So, like, I think improv is, like, an active participation thing. You, like, decide when to laugh. You, like, just, or, like, like, at least for me, because I, like, I understand that it is entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like filming because, I like, there's stuff happening, and I feel like I can, like, if I'm filming it, instead of just, like, directing my mind at the scene, I'm actually, like, maybe helping, the scene, like, exist.
Sure.
Maybe that sounds weird, but
no.
Like tonight I was like focusing on your hands a lot and like
Okay.
stuff and like little things that maybe like wouldn't come across in like a wide angle.
Right.
Because it's like this reality that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to like participate in improv. So like
That's cool.
fleshing out the reality that's happening that you're in feels good.
That's cool. With improv, you are emulating life. Like, you're taking your experiences and you're putting it through your own filter, and you are creating a new reality.
This reality where, so like, from an entertainment perspective, yeah, there's a filter or whatever. But the cool thing is that the scene work that you make, isn't, like, it ultimately stands alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if, like, say you're playing a character that's very similar to yourself, because of all this other work you're doing with, like, building a reality and building other stuff and, like, interacting with other people, you're, like, weirdly, there's no filter. It's like a body that you're building. It's like you're, like, sculpting something, or you're, like,
Mm-hmm.
painting something.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether or not you filter certain things to decide how to make a good scene, but then what ends up happening is getting splattered on a canvas,
Right.
and then you're just like this thing or whatever, and I don't know, yeah. So anyway, man, you like performed tonight.
I needed to. I performed. I went all out. I tried to satirize Midwestern life, Midwesterners tonight. That's kind of what,
Yeah.
especially with the whole, I was making fun of how neighbors kind of interact with each other, how especially male neighbors, older male neighbors like to meet up with each other on their lawns, and they kind of face the same direction as they talk to each other.
Discuss logistics.
Discuss how to build things, how to do whatever, how to take care of whatever household maintenance. I really satirized that tonight. I wanted to make a statement on that tonight. So that was kind of something that came through. And then we got into the whole, once again, in our improv, we got into dealing pot. We got into another pot scene. We probably had like 5 or 6 shows where we get into the selling of weed. And they've all been very different. Tonight it was about older people buying weed. And it was in kind of an absurd setting of a couple at Sears, and the man branches off and finds his weed dealer. They're texting. And then he sort of wants to learn how to deal weed himself. that's what the scene sort of turned into, is a man like shadowing his drug dealer, doing a drug dealer with another person. So I don't know, that's kind of where my experience came into my art today.
I enjoyed it.
I had a lot of fun.
Doubly.
It got a little weird. We started off, I think, stronger than we finished, which is fine.
Well, okay, so like I also like having an improv background, have like a way of like I'm like backseat improvising in my head. I'm like, oh, are you making a good improv choice? Like, is that a good improv choice? Whatever. The cool thing that I found with watching like good improvisers is that like ultimately the critic in me like shuts up, because I'm like the like force of the scene carries you away from whatever like your reaction is. And so like the scene like carries you through whatever. And I think as someone who's done improv too, that I think that's true too, where like maybe you make a choice that feels like you're making an arbitrary choice or whatever, and then the scene kind of like forces you to realize like that it's like a larger thing, that you're like kind of all tumbling down a hill together. And that's what was so satisfying about tonight's set, was not necessarily like any of your individual performances, but the fact that like once again in one of your improv sets, that like the culmination of all of your performances was like a splatter painting that like ultimately created something human. And like you had like human people that and I enjoy thinking about what a non-improviser sees when they watch improv, because it's always radically different than what an improviser sees.
Right.
Daniel tonight, after your set, what was on his mind was like jokes. He was like, I want to get better at jokes like those guys. And I was like, oh, that's funny, man, because like they actually like weren't even making jokes.
I did at one point
Make a joke, but you were like joking as characters.
I made a pun as a character,
and that was so good.
And I was so happy when that happened.
Yeah, well, then the way that everyone reacted to the pun as a character,
right? It's so interesting what you can kind of pull off with improv.
Yeah,
because when you are a character, you're someone else. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, and so okay, so like I do
Really
documentary. I shoot people doing stuff, and you get the kind of like self-aware, like in real life people do stuff and they're like, oh, I'm like doing this now. I'm doing this. This is happening. Whatever. The great thing is that improv is a theatrical simulation of documentary. It's a simulation of real life, and that's like really, really interesting. It's not like, you know, like a camera simulates real life through a limited perspective, but improv simulates life through like a feminine, when I say feminine, I just mean like generative, like constructive lens of things happening or whatever. So you're not like capturing something happening, you're actually like creating the possibility of ambiguity and like many reactions or whatever. And you get people reacting to something in an improv scene, and there's this like it's exactly like observing people in real life, but there's this additional layer where, as an improviser, as like an actor, you can say two things with one action. You can like react to something as a person that's fake,
right? And
then you're also saying something about your ability to observe real life.
Right. You can give the scene and everyone involved, you can give everyone your perspective as that character, which gives just a whole new fucking layer of everything. Like,
yeah, and
it's
hard to even describe, honestly.
Well, yeah, but you can reveal how this person who you're portraying, you can reveal how they feel about the world, and you can be saying just these ridiculous or whatever things.
Well, and the fact that maybe it could be real is the whole thing everyone buys into. As an audience member, audiences have no problem buying into that it could be real, because as far as they're concerned, it is. They're in a room with people,
right? And
it's like, oh yeah, like yeah, that's real. But and that's the incredible thing, that as someone who does it, you take for granted sometimes. You like think that like, oh, I was just making these arbitrary choices, but what you're actually simulating is real experience, because ultimately it becomes real experience for whoever's watching it. And they really experience the joke. They really experience the response.
Well, you're still a person, and even though you're not a real person when you're doing improv,
you're not a person.
You become like a ghost or something. You're just like, you're being someone else, and you're exposing this person's whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, you expose how they feel about the world, their scope on things, which gives potentially this absurd, I don't know, it's just this absurd feeling to the audience. This just...
well, hopefully it's uncanny, right?
Well, like, this uncanny kind of... Hopefully, and if it's truth and comedy, they'll be just kind of tapping into whatever you're getting at.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's so cool, though. Improv is so cool.
It is really cool. And I'm glad, it was cool to see that, you guys had your first show in like 2.5 months or whatever, and you hit this like constructive rhythm. You made a thing. You made what, like, in my like perception of the show tonight was like you made 3 like abstract expressionist portraits,
right,
of like usually 3 real people in like a thing, and it was like kind of absurd, but it was also like, it was like buffered by like really human stuff.
Realistic premises, with absurd content in each premise. You know what I mean? I think that's what we kind of pulled off tonight. Neighbors talking in a front yard, normal Midwestern premise that happens.
Stuff we relate.
But then just the insanity of where we went from that. Like, we were smoking weed together, which led to the buying weed as a 40-year-old in a Sears.
Also, by the way,
store.
So like, can we talk about how weed as an improv premise is like pretty sketchy territory?
It is. And we've gotten into it a lot, several different times.
And I've seen it backfire on you guys before, because, like, let's be honest, like, the reason it's coming up in scenes is because it's a part of your life also.
Yeah. And it's just, sometimes it's just like it's kind of the territory where, like, we all know we probably shouldn't go there, but it's just so juicy, and there's just it's just such, like, a young person area to go.
Yeah, well,
So talking about weed is just, like, unlimited possibility, and just hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
Like, and even if it's just like kind of a cliche to go there, it's so fun to go there.
Well, and like I definitely, like, I see it as like hard to pull off.
It
like,
definitely is
really hard to pull off. If only because it's often so close to what, like, the actual experience is like, that it can be hard to get the perspective that we're talking about, where you're like creating an alternate reality. It can kind of blend in with like real reality, which is like incredibly ironic when you consider the experience of smoking weed and the kind of the kind of same doubling that happens when you smoke weed, where have you ever had the feeling where, like, everything becomes literary, or like when you smoke, everything becomes a symbol instead of reality? You're like, oh, like, we're all talking, like, people get really self-aware, when they smoke. And it's like, because people are becoming conscious of the fact that we're living symbols. And so people get really into, what are we symbolizing right now? Are we symbolizing young, white, privileged America? Are we symbolizing, like, young art? Like, whatever. Like, are we, like, symbolizing something because we've smoked? And so then the incredibly cool thing that you guys pulled off tonight, in the treacherous territory of doing weed improv, which I think is treacherous. I think it can be, like,
absolutely.
And so, like, the thing that you pulled off was characters who embodied the reality of self-awareness. You guys weren't actually smoking, but you did a pretty fucking incredible job of what it looks like when 3 people smoke together and then slowly drift off into different things. Like,
right. We I think we pulled off the whole, like,
you pulled off the realism of it.
Well, yeah, getting introspective. We actually let the fake weed influence us.
Yeah.
Which I think was really good.
It was a really cool choice.
Yeah, someone just asked, I'm periscoping this right now,
Yeah.
just for a moment.
Yeah.
Someone just asked, what the hell are you talking about? They just tuned in.
We're talking about improv.
Yeah, we're talking about improv, and more specifically, we're talking about when you do scenes in improv comedy involving marijuana.
Yeah.
Either selling the weed, buying the weed. We're talking about
especially
how that can be just kind of a bad choice most of the time, but when you
yeah.
do it right, it can be good.
In, like, high school improv, it comes up all the time, because what our high school is worried about, it's, like, being cool, doing drugs, whatever. And then
weed is funny, ha ha ha.
And then, like, in high school improv, you see people that, you know, like, the scene turns into 4 people going, like, "Whoa, the colors are so cool," or whatever. So anyway, my brother was at the show tonight. My brother is someone who's, like, probably not really familiar with that much weed culture, or is maybe just kind of, like, avoids it on purpose or whatever. And so, like, I was really, really fascinated by the fact that, like, he got to see 3 people simulating, like, what actually kind of happens when you smoke.
Right. I mean, it was kind of an absurd take on it.
Well, the
actually smoking scene was actually pretty
like dead on.
That was pretty real.
Yeah.
Like, it was 3 neighbors. It was 2 neighbors and, like, this day job guy. Show us the scene. I don't have the scene. It wasn't. We didn't film the. Well, we did film the improv.
Yeah, we filmed it.
Is Eau Claire still nice? Lived there about 10 years ago, and it was beautiful. Eau Claire is still beautiful. No, we do have it, sir. We don't have it ready for you, or ma'am.
Yeah, I have to edit it.
We have to edit it and release it. So follow me on Twitter.
Hey,
RANEYALEX on Twitter, and you'll find it eventually, but we don't have it right now.
Can we pivot?
Yeah, definitely.
And talk about the other acts tonight, because we talk about, like,
the musical acts and the comedy stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that Lauren Anderson's Idol Empress band has just been. They're professional as fuck. They are so good.
Isn't it crazy how
Idol Empress
songs,
you guys, on Bandcamp? Look up Idol Empress.
Yeah, IDLE.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how, like, Lauren's songs like continue to be profound? Oh, like, every time I see her play it, I've never seen her play and not been moved.
Yeah,
like a single
time.
She,
I think, is just a true artist, and she honestly has a way with words in her. I noticed that today more than ever in her fucking songs. Some of the just depths she reaches with her lyrics.
Yeah, like,
she's not just saying stuff. Sometimes people they make music and it sounds good, but their lyrics are bullshit. But Lauren's the whole package. She has real lyrics.
I actually think she might
be
music. One of, like, in terms of writing, I think she might be one of the few, like, writing geniuses.
No, she's really good.
It's crazy.
And Jordan James, a.k.a. Jordan DeRoe,
brought it to a really real place as well. Like, just, like, talked as himself.
Yeah.
To a group of people.
Great comedy.
Yeah.
Someone on Periscope just asked for a recap. We're talking about improv. We did a house show tonight. I have an improv team, and we did a show. We got into some surreal. We got into some kind of surreal marijuana selling scenes, and now we're talking about the other acts of the show. It was Idol Empress, Lauren Anderson, Elliot Hines, and Josh Frederick's band. They performed a great set, great music. Look up Idol Empress on Bandcamp. We also had a stand-up comedian, Jordan James. He performed some great shit. He performed, I think my favorite bit of Jordan's was, he was talking about, like, the Michael Jordan of fucking being a chef. So, Michael, everyone knows Michael Jordan. He is the basketball king. So, you've got the kings of whatever else. And Jordan was saying, I'm probably the best at something else. It just hasn't been invented. So he's the Jordan James of, slamming 23 slices of pizza, for example. So I thought that was some pretty good joke telling. And now, my team, Glassworks Improv, check out glassworksimprov.com to see some live shows or whatever. You can kind of see what we're like. We performed a show. I had a lot of fun. We got into some kind of surreal shit about selling weed. We got into neighbors talking to each other on their front lawns and smoking weed together, and then how the weed kind of affected all of them. So it was kind of fun. It was a great night of house show activities, just drinking beer, fucking smoking cigarettes between acts. It was a great night. And then afterwards, I kind of went out to the bars with my friends, and I was like, oh my god, I'm still kind of buzzing. And I said, I am still ready to keep going. Let's do some podcasting. We talked about Mac not wanting to podcast, and Jesse was like, I'm down to podcast. And so here we are. Jesse is now getting some water or something, and I am sitting here talking to you, letting you know that I actually am. Here you go. I'm recording this. This is going to be live on my YouTube channel. Go to @RainyAlex on Twitter, RANEYALEX on Twitter, and this will be up on YouTube shortly on my YouTube channel. You can check out my page. You can also find the link for my improv team there. And here's Jesse. He's back. I think we're going to stop this broadcast right now. This Periscope was going to end. I have to pee really bad, so we're going to do that. You can hit up the rest of this conversation again at my Twitter page, RANEYALEX, twitter.com. There you go. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We had 38 total viewers.
Nice.
Yeah. If you want to talk right now, I'm just going to go pee. I don't know what you want to talk about, but...
Yeah, well, I mean...
I figure we're an hour and 21 minutes into this. We can just keep going. I'm kind of getting on a roll. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I already did the thing where I scraped my brain for, like, the way I was raised and stuff. Definitely go into that territory a lot. I think that's kind of what podcasts are good for. Or at least that's why I listen to podcasts, is to, like, find common ground with people on weird things that you don't talk about enough. I find that I actually do talk about those things a lot because I have really supportive friends that are willing to listen to my raw psyche being analyzed in front of everyone. You know, which is cool. I think sometimes I have a tendency to, I love introspection. I love, I poured all of it in my cup so I could give you some. I have this thing where I, really like introspection to a fault.
No worries.
And so when I don't have something, when I don't have, a real insight to get into, I start, I'm going to use the word flagellating. I start abusing myself just because I'm like, well, at least it's raw, at least it's real. I think, Alex, I'm just gonna go ahead and say maybe you can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. You're like, oh, how can I get real? Maybe
I just crave it sometimes.
Yeah,
and a lot of it comes, my craving to get real comes from just, I spend probably an inordinate amount of time in isolation. By choice, but it can be bad.
Yeah.
So then I just get the need to perform and to interact.
And it's and you're laying in your dirty apartment.
Yep.
You're thinking about drugs.
Yep.
You're thinking about, loving or hating yourself.
Yep.
And you're like, hey, how do I get real? I talk about this. I talk about this right now. Not gonna lie, I think it's I sometimes I see people doing that on Twitter. I see comedians I respect doing that.
Oh, yeah.
It's clearly you're just, bored as fuck and trying to scrape your brain.
Right. Or you just are missing something from your life. You probably need a partner. You need something.
Yeah.
I've watched comedians on Periscope. Periscope's a new thing. I'm going to shout out Stephen Brody Stevens. I think you need a significant other, bro. You need to get a boyfriend or girlfriend, and you need to Periscope without Periscope to them. Because I just see it in you. I think you need it.
Well, okay, so isn't that why most people make art though?
Oh, sure. And also Stephen Brody Stevens, you fucking rock Periscope.
Oh, yeah.
You have broken ground for me. technologically, whatever.
Well, and vicariously now he's like breaking ground through you because I've watched you be inspired by him.
It's amazing.
And now I see you break ground with it.
I love doing Periscope.
Yeah.
I think it's an incredible thing. I think just the fact that I can opt people into my life and I can have 38 people check in with me for just a few seconds. Like, they can just see what I'm doing. They can be with me for a moment. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's a
on a certain level of living.
Yeah, on a certain level, it's kind of fucked up, but on another level, it's not fucked up at all.
But so
it's
we're
amazing.
talking about comedians, right? I mean, like the comedy comes from that need.
Yeah.
I know I was only funny on Twitter when I was like really bad at expressing myself.
Yeah.
And so then what did come out was like it's like it wasn't even me, it was like the darkest caricature of what I thought my emotional needs were, and then I would decide that my emotional needs were negative, and then I would decide that my negative feelings were funny, and then I would decide that being funny meant giving everybody everything, and I'd give someone a nice big guilt-ridden piece of my life.
That's so many of my tweets are, I just ate 14 burgers or something, like, not even that, I don't know, but I try to,
well, okay, so you have the bug, you have the dissatisfaction with life that, maybe a therapist would tell you that you need a significant other, or you need a job, or you need a a vocation that fills up your time or whatever, but you're kind of like, no, like the good stuff comes from like dissatisfaction,
right?
And so maybe you like curate dissatisfaction, but that comes to another really real place, which is how does an artist whose affliction is never being satisfied with your work, because if you were satisfied, you'd stop, you'd quit, you'd go, oh, I did it, now I'm done. So if you're afflicted with being an artist, how do you handle wellness? Fortunately, that's a territory that comedians from LA are all over.
About wellness. The fucking comedians in LA, I listen to a lot of your podcast, LA comedians, and you guys are all about supplements and working out, and you are about podcasting and being well.
Conversation.
Talking it out. And I think it's a lot of it's great. A lot of it's very self-indulgent, but a lot of it is very. I applaud you in that.
Really
I think
me,
it helps me. It helps literally millions of people, I think. But I think a lot of people don't get that, just kind of just talking it out, like your whole life. You can just lay it out there and relate to people.
You know what they're doing is they're saving Midwesterners.
It's true. A lot. Oh my God.
They're saving Midwesterners. Like
Midwesterners just don't know how to be real. I think a lot of us don't know how to fucking.
And then you hear really funny self-actualized people get real about their problems and their issues, whatever, and you realize in a certain way that like they're not even that far ahead of you. They've just figured out how to say it.
Right.
And you're like, oh, like, fuck, like, maybe I can move on.
Right.
Maybe, like, if I was being constructive, I could just, like, name the issue and move on, you know?
Right.
And, like, yeah, it helps people a lot.
Right. And another cool thing about a lot of people I listen to on podcasts is they're just, it just gets me going because it's just such a constant hustle. I mean, a lot of podcasters realize, like, the world doesn't owe you anything. You want the best for yourself. Fuck motherfuckers. You are just gonna fucking go out there, prove yourself, get some shit, get yours. Again, the world owes you nothing, so you just need to fucking go out there and be a fucking atomic bomb.
Yeah, well, and maybe when it comes to, like, communication, too, it's like, hey, like, are you gonna wait, are you gonna wait for someone to give you a TV pilot or whatever? Or are you gonna throw a microphone on.
Right. Are you going to throw a microphone on and talk with some buds?
Yeah.
Or are you going to make a YouTube video and fucking crank some shit out? It's about content creation. It's all. I mean, it's just it's great. I love it.
Okay,
and it can be viewed as just worthless, but for viewers and listeners, it's not worthless, which makes it so worthwhile to be cranking out your own shit.
Yeah, that's
as worthless as it seems. It's not content.
Well, and so
be authentic.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, you're right, and like, it's weird because, I talked about the affliction of being artistic. Because you're never gonna be happy, or whatever. But like, weirdly enough, that disease is what the entire create, like, I don't want to say it's like people aren't creative in their own ways or whatever, but like people who aren't afflicted with needing to create things and put things out there, they survive on entertainment, and that's why entertainment is the largest industry. If you look at it in mass, you look at like music, movies, television.
There are consumers out there that are just looking for it constantly. They need it,
and that's why
I'm one of them. And I am striving also to be a creator,
right? And so like
because I need that.
Well, and it's like the lowest common denominator. There's a reason why mass, like film, music, or whatever, all of them have these apparatuses for the lowest common denominator. You have big budget movies for the people that don't have any standards, that still need to see things blow up and people hook up. And you have, music that, like, for people who maybe, love is still a very, like, like, maybe as like a judgmental person, I would say, like, people are doing it in like barbaric or like stupid ways. They still need someone to tell them that, like, they should love that way. And that's what top 40 music is like, yeah, like, you can love that way. You can, all these like codependent, like addictive love jams or whatever are necessary for a lot of people who need to feel that they're doing something important with their emotions. And so and so, like, making that kind of stuff is like sometimes like deeply ambiguous and not always satisfying to do it. But when you realize that maybe you're actually like enabling someone else's self-discovery, it can help you keep doing it, and maybe you can you like learn to respect yourself because at the very least you're helping other people. Right.
And what it comes down to is we're all just as clueless as everyone else. We're fucking, I mean, a lot of people, I think, don't really picture it this way just because whatever, but we're all just randomly here, and we're randomly just trying to figure out how to fill up our time. So some of us need to talk about it, and some of us just want to listen or not listen.
Well, and some people are able to like actualize and move on with their lives just by consuming, and good luck to those people. Like cool. Like, if that's good enough for you.
And there is a lot of great stuff to consume, which I think makes it possible to just be a consumer and move on. But also, it just feels so good to just.
Do you think maybe like everyone
do it yourself?
Eventually, everyone's going to be doing it though. Like, don't you think that's kind of what the internet has started?
Well, I think everyone kind of is with Tumblr
everyone gets
or
to express
whatever.
Himself. Everyone expresses.
And even if they're not the creator, even if they're just reposting things, they're still creating their identity.
They're curating, yeah.
Yeah, or they're living through the podcast they listen to. They are living through the artsy Tumblr posts that they're re-Tumblring.
Like. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of us are living through each other on the internet, and I certainly am. I hope others will be able to live through me on the internet. That sounds great.
I already have. You know, the podcasts of yours that I haven't been on, I listen to and I get a lot out of it. Even
That's
though
great.
You know,
It's been so incredible to me. There's not that many people that listen to my podcast, and I can prove it by the numbers on the internet. But the few people that have listened to me, and I'm just kind of getting going on podcasting with Mac, and I kind of want to, in addition to my podcast with Mac, I want to do my own podcast. This might be the first episode of my own podcast also. I've been kind of thinking about releasing it that way. But what was I saying? The people who have listened to my podcasting and have come up to me and said, you know, just something as simple as great podcast. I listened to the whole thing. You're doing a great job. I mean, just vague things like that. Like, people are listening. Wow, that's amazing. They listen to me talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Wow, like, you are relating to me on some level. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's huge. So that alone is enough for me to keep doing it. And just the big podcasts that I listen to, at some point they all break down to saying, you know, sure, you've got 4 listeners this month. Next month you'll have 8 listeners. And the month after that you'll have 12 listeners. Like, growing on that, and that's just simple fucking, like,
and like,
I don't know. It's
like
just
a picture of how you want things to go for you in general. You know, you want
you want to get bigger as
sure, yeah, you
just
as
your own entity, as your own little business. Like, you want to get recognition. And it feels good to be heard by your own species. There's something that's incredible about that.
And it provides, like, for me at least, it provides context for, like, what I'm doing right now. Like, I had a real chip on my shoulder when I was making, like, video stuff or whatever, where I kind of thought that my taste and stuff was good, so that my output must also be really good, and then kind of this, like, expectation of, like, well, like, because I have such high standards on what I enjoy, people should enjoy my work the same way that I enjoy really, really, you know, really good shit, or whatever. But then kind of like the slow build was what made me keep making stuff. Like, understanding that I had at least 20 people who were going to be like, hey man, that was cool. Was enough for me to be like, oh, so, like, maybe, like, that's enough for me right now. Like, maybe the 20 people is good enough for me.
Yeah, and then eventually, when you keep doing it, your goal is to get to your first 10,000 people.
Sure, yeah.
Get to your first 20,000 people,
well, and
just,
also
that's incredible at that level.
Respecting the audience, being like, oh, like, the 20 people who care, like, moved me enough to, I'm not gonna make something really bitter and ironic, because I want to eventually be making, you know, like $120,000 a year, so I should satirize the fact that I'm not, you know, like, because that's, like, a lot of my early work was like, oh, I'm so talented that this video is a joke because it's not bringing me a career, it's not bringing me happiness, or whatever. Realizing that instead, like, oh, I have 20 people I respect, like, supporting this or whatever. It's like, well, if I want more, like, I'm not gonna start, like, treating that audience like shit. You know, I'm gonna at least serve that audience well. And then maybe it'll grow, and that's, like, the cool thing. So, like, that, and that's what inspired me to want to be on your podcast in the first place, was I listened to it and had the experience that I have when I listen to any podcast.
That's great.
Which was that I sunk in, I felt like I was with people, I felt like I was hearing really valuable shit, and I was like, that's why I wanted to be on it, was because I was like, well, someday, like, if they keep doing this, and they keep respecting the audience, there's gonna be this, like, unfolding of, like stuff keeps growing, stuff keeps happening. Hopefully your podcast keeps growing. And
they will. I mean, I don't know. It's just, if you keep, it it seems kind of hopeless to get into podcasting at first. But just the fact that there's so many of them sort of drives me at the same time. And just, I don't know, it's just, there's something about that building of, you have just a couple people that are listening, they're getting something out of it. Holy shit, the potential for thousands of people to get something out of it is there. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. So just that building is so intriguing. Just getting more and more momentum.
And that like
beautiful.
Yeah, and then you enjoy it right now, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, like we're lucky. We have the bubble. We have like the solitude bubble of like, this isn't like, there's no pressure right now, but at the same time, it's the same thing that you ultimately want to have no pressure with. If maybe it's bigger, you know, you want to like, you're like people who find success in their given field or whatever often long for the days when there was no pressure,
right?
Or whatever,
right?
And so this is like the golden era.
It is.
This is
absolutely
the golden age, and that's why I'm the only reason I'm on this podcast is I'm an opportunist, and I wanted to say I was at the ground floor of, you know, your entertainment hitting the whole world.
Right. My goal, I mean, I will shamelessly say that I want to put this on YouTube, and I want eventually millions of followers. I would love 1 million subscribers.
Yeah,
at some point.
people subscribe when you're on episode 398.
Exactly.
And then they go back to this one. They're like,
and they think, oh my god,
I can't believe he started there.
this was for me.
He was with his other friend who had no money.
Right. These are two broke ass motherfuckers who statistically are worthless. But like, there's some worth in that, and there's something to be said for just building from having 38 people tune in on your Periscope to having 400 people tune in on your Periscope, to having 1,000 people tune in on your Ustream, to have 30,000 people on your YouTube from, you know, one person on your YouTube, whatever. It's incredible.
And so anyone out there, if you're doing that thing, you're working on that thing, you feel like no one's caring, no one's paying attention.
They do care, probably.
Do you have one person who's giving you feedback? That's fucking huge.
Just your mom giving you feedback? Hey man, that's something.
Yeah, so you know what? It's like it's just, you keep pushing, keep doing that thing.
Yeah, and I'm at that point where it's mainly my mom just tuning into my shit. And so it's like, oh my god, hopelessness, may as well get a degree in accounting. Fuck that! I do not belong in accounting. Oh I belong on this podcast, and I'm gonna stay on this fucking podcast. So there you go. That's all there is to it.
Let's wrap. I feel good about this.
Yeah, we have almost gone 2 hours in. I think I'm going to go back once you leave. I'm going to record an intro. Okay. And then maybe record an outro. Throw some music in there. That's all I'll do. And I think I'm going to post this on the internet. Yeah. Post it on YouTube. Please. Yeah, I would love to have, in addition to the positive story, I'd love to have my own kind of archive of just my own podcast. Yeah. Not sure what I'm going to talk. Well, and
so like as far as positive story goes, it has like this like nice cadence of like you and Mac like doing it up as like this kind of like bilateral thing. You both tackle things, do whatever. Right. Whereas, you know, like I think you're also suited as just like a conversation cast.
Yeah, definitely. And I want that. I want that archive of me and Mac. We have a big history. We have a great, our brains are almost in sync 100% of the time. I'd say when I perform with Mac, we, if you put him in a scene with an improviser and me in a scene with an improviser, you're going to get probably really similar results in the scene. There are times when I've watched Mac do improv and I've seen his choices. And I think I would have done that exact same thing, guarantee. Yeah. No, I see it coming. He does it. I say, you know what? I would have done the same thing. So, to work with Mac is amazing. To work with myself, I need to do more. So I think I want to add my own podcast.
It's a joy. It's a joy to be on.
Yeah. So what do you think I should call it? I'm either gonna call it Wonky Talk Podcast. Kind of a play on honky tonk. Honky tonk. What is honky tonk? Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a play on that.
Which means talk. Like I think like that means like white.
Yeah, it means white. Or I'm going to call it Rainy Day Tonight.
Ooh.
How about that? Because my last name is Rainy.
Yeah, I think you should capitalize on your name.
I think I should too.
Yeah.
So I think this might be going under the name Rainy Day Tonight.
Rainy Day might also be a good performer name if you ever want a pseudonym.
Sure.
Rainy.
I've often wondered about that as far as my performance name or whatever, my stage name, because
Rainy Day.
And Rainy is just sort of a shitty name when you think about it. Like when you break it down, it's just kind of an ugly name, and it's kind of a very, at the same time, a very average, under average name, where it just kind of maybe
as a last name, but as a first name, it's all of a sudden this strong intro.
Right. So I think I might be calling this Rainy Day Tonight, episode 1. You guys are listening. Yeah. I think we're gonna just throw it up on YouTube as that. I've been talking with Jesse Johnson.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation.
Going on 2 hours.
We are at an hour and 45 minutes right now. It's been quite a time. Yeah. Periscoped a little bit of it. If you want to go onto my Twitter, RANEYALEX on Twitter. That's my handle. You'll find
for all the people.
My Periscope just titled podcasting. There you go.
So we started, and I kind of had the image of someone on their own in their bed, kind of bored, whatever. Yeah. If you've gone with us, we've gone into really introspective looks at things that we do. And hopefully all this talk about the process doesn't spoil the fact that it's actually happening right now, because
this is a live process of,
we're just trying
part of something that we do. We're getting into new waters. Jesse is a notorious photographer, filmographer, is that a word even?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Jesse, Eau Claire-based artist. He has an improv background. He has been my bud for a while. I've done improv with him in the past. He travels with my improv team when we travel, and he takes photos and films and helps us blog, and just kind of partakes in our travels. He'll be coming with us, correct, next month?
Oh, yeah.
Glassworks, my improv team, along with From Justin to Kelly, will be taking on the East Coast. Jesse will be there with us to be a part of it all. And again, he can be found where you have a Flickr account. I don't know where else he can be found. Various videos and whatnot.
Yeah, I haven't, it's cool watching the step of doing art kind of on a local level, and then podcasting and stuff or whatever. You're kind of creating this really accessible thing. I honestly, as long as I've been doing what I do, I still look at myself as kind of being en vitro. I'm I do stuff and I share it in a really, I don't share it with the intention of always speaking to a larger audience, except for that tiny part of me that hopes someday someone will care.
Sure.
If you wanna find my visual identity on the internet, it's you can look for Jesse Peej, JESSEPEEJ, on Vimeo or Flickr. Or you can look for JPEG Master Jesse and find the pseudonym I've been using for going on 10 years now. And you can find me posting about video games.
Cool.
On the internet when I was 14.
Cool.
But it's so. I'm still waiting. I'm still looking for my podcast in terms of something for a broad audience. But I'm trying to work a lot and trying to do good work.
Yeah. So Jesse, he's been getting into photography lessons. He's been filming house shows and whatnot around Eau Claire. Again, travels with us. It's been great. He takes great photos, great video. It's been fun working with him. Been fun talking with him. We're going on an hour and 50 minutes chatting it up in my living room. I just we weren't planning on doing this tonight. I was just I'm in the mood. If you guys want to come, you can. We're going to do it. Talk it up. Jesse was yeah. Mac was I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm going to go to bed. So
the two of us are going to stay up all night because we drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, drank a little coffee here. Talked it out. Got to talk a little bit on Periscope with some folks. that was interesting. Periscope is a weird one. I really like it though.
Yeah, keep doing it, man. I like it.
I'm gonna check me out on there. Again, my Twitter is @RainyAlex, RANEYALEX. Tentatively gonna post this episode as episode 1 of Rainy Day Tonight. I don't know. Sounds good to me. Jesse is going to be my first guest, / whatever. I don't know. Good bud. Still talking just because I like to. What's happening? I don't know. Osama bin Laden, Barack Obama.
What time is it?
It is 2:39 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah, it's late. It's a late one. But, I kind of function at night. That's part of the reason also I was kind of revved up.
I was thinking of starting my own podcast.
You should do it.
And it would probably be guestless.
Cool.
And it would happen whenever it was at least 3 a.m. and I had been trying to fall asleep for at least 3 hours and couldn't. I just thought I might start rolling, because that happens pretty much like every night lately. It's like 3 and I'm like, oh, I wanted to fall asleep like 3 hours ago. Mm-hmm. So the the Insomniac podcast might happen. Maybe
that's cool. It's great.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for working when the moon is out. I think a lot of people are just you tap in. You have the potential to tap into a greater creative realm. It's really, I think, definitely astounding what what
collective schizophrenic unconscious that comes out at night.
Oh yeah, it's just
it's right.
You need to
most of my
stay up all night every now and then.
Most of my honest art has come from a place of sleep deprivation.
Oh yeah, some of my best tweets come from when I stay up all night and tweet all night.
Mm-hmm. You tap in, you start pushing the buttons of what any human can tolerate. Yeah. You break down the boundaries.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out now how I can crack into iMovie. Looks like it's waiting to upgrade here so I can actually use it. Okay. There was a billing issue. I didn't have any money, and I needed to update iMovie.
Yeah.
And even though it's a free update, it wouldn't let me because of a billing issue, which is kind of fucked. I can't even get free apps. But it looks like I'm finally, because I have some money on my card, it's kind of finally updating, so I can actually put this audio file into iMovie and then post it to YouTube.
Oh, dude, if you want.
Because you can't post MP3s to YouTube.
I think you can just add an image, maybe?
Yeah, but I think the only option it's really given me is to put it through iMovie.
Just give me the file.
Okay. Well, it should be okay. I think I should be able to do it because it's like updating right now.
Okay.
Because I have money on there now.
Yeah. You know what I was hoping. I already filled up all my space on my memory card, but I was gonna put a camera on each of us for tonight.
We should. That's what I want to get into more. Is
then just like video podcast.
Yeah. I'm so my goal is to have a Ustream, a Libsyn, as an archive. But I think Ustream is a great fucking tool to utilize when you got all the archive there on the right. You can scroll through, select your episode, watch live stuff. YouTube now, you've got your live broadcast option.
There's so many ways to do it. And
then the move is to just post on all of them.
Sure.
Is to post onto Stitcher, onto iTunes, YouTube, Libsyn, Ustream. There's those 5. That's my goal. Ustream, Libsyn, iTunes, what did I say?
Yeah, no, you hit
YouTube, Libsyn, iTunes, Ustream, SoundCloud.
And it's, you know what?
Here's a fart.
We've been talking about process.
Yep.
For a lot of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We've been recapping processes.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully anyone listening, you tap into the idea that you can do it right. You can do it unique. You can do it in a small scale. You can do it in a big scale. But we all ultimately want to find the one that was
a huge fart on my part. That's staying in this podcast.
I'm gonna stop trying to recap things for everyone. If you've been listening this whole time, you have a very intimate sense of who we are.
Absolutely. I should hope that upon hearing a big flappy fart on my part, you would realize kind of who I am. I like to be open. I like for people just to instantly be able to grab onto something to get the idea of who I am. I hope that just from being with me for a second, you'll be able to kind of grasp onto who I am, which is just a goof and hopefully open character, just farts out loud. I'll talk about masturbating. I'll talk about whatever the fuck.
And we did.
We really did. You go back to about 40 minutes ago.
They know. If they're here, they already were there.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Super appreciate it. We're coming up on 2 hours here with Jesse. This has been the first episode, I'm going to say it, of the Rainy Day Tonight podcast. Raney podcast. Rainy Day Tonight podcast. I don't know if I'm going to actually call it that. Fuck it. I'm just going to put it up on my Alex Rainey fucking YouTube channel.
Is it a day or is it a night?
Rainy Day Tonight. I don't know. It's early morning right now, coming up on 3 a.m. So, I don't know.
Thanks, man. Thanks. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it's been very fun.
We should wrap.
We should definitely wrap it up.
But, I love this audience. I love you.
Yeah, I'm glad you came. It was kind of a spur of the moment kind of vibe. We were just coming out of the bar. I was like, I want a podcast. Let's do it. And you were like, let's do it. So here we are. And 2 hours later, that's a fucking podcast. So thanks, y'all, for listening. Thanks, y'all, for being you. Keep being you. Stay black, as Joey Diaz would say. Trying to see him in Minneapolis. You know Joey Diaz? You do. Anyways, trying to see him. My friend Anthony is getting to open for him, so I'm just like, I feel famous just through him.
Anthony's so good.
Anthony Decimito, check him out. Met him in at the Phoenix Improv Festival, Phoenix-based comedian, hilarious. Anthony Decimito will be opening for Joey Diaz in Minneapolis coming up this week. So excited for that. Shout out to Anthony, Joey Diaz. You are my rock. I love you, boy. You are amazing, from fucking felon to fucking comedian extraordinaire. Amazing. What a story. Part of the reason why I'm doing this, honestly, because he's just like, you're going to have 4 listeners. Next week, you're going to have 6. So I'm like, thank you. Great. Okay. Peace out, y'all.
Peace.
1 hour, 56 minutes, 57 minutes. That's it? We done?
I'm done. Thanks, guys.
So that was my talk with my good bud, Jesse Johnson. I hope you had a fun time. I know I had a fun time. It was a long night and a long podcast for me. I don't know if I've ever done a 2-hour show like that, podcast. Yeah, I had a good little time. I hope you had a good little time. I know Jesse had some fun. He just kind of played Grand Theft Auto and then passed out on my couch until about 5 a.m. And then I think he took off because he's not here. And so yeah. Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hope you come again. Hope I can do this again. Hope I pull my shit together enough to do more podcasting for you. So thank you. My name is Alex, the super annoying orangutan boy. Good night.